The Mende in Sierra Leone, along with several other ethnic groups, practice a masquerade tradition called Sande, which we're going to be focusing on in this video. Unlike other places in Africa, this is a women's masquerade, meaning a woman dons the mask, wears this facial structure covering the head, as well as a costume, and she performs, she dances. We don't find this anywhere else in Africa. We do have instances where women participate with masks or by applying face paint and dancing, but where they completely conceal themselves. This is a rare incident. And it's not just the Mende, it's all groups in this region called Sierra Leone. And if we understand the history of Freetown, we understand that lots of different groups ended up coming here after the downfall of the slave trade. Now, Sierra Leone has undergone a series of civil wars and coups, lots of corruption. About half the population has been displaced, and there hasn't been stability and peace for very long. And so this tradition of masquerade probably is no longer practiced in many regions. We don't know to what extent it's still practiced, but we're going to be examining scholarship that comes from the 80s and early 90s and talk about what this tradition was like in its heyday, this women's masquerade among one ethnic group, among the Mende. Now, all Mende men and women are initiated into one or two associations or societies. For men, it's called Poro, and for women, it's called Sande. And these are secret associations, meaning that they come with secret knowledge. So if you belong to one group, you do not have access to the secret knowledge of the other. But remember, all men are part of Poro and all women are part of Sande. And these institutions dictate pretty much help with all the major events in your life, whether it's your coming of age, it's marriage, it's birth, it's death. So a woman, even after she marries, will come back and give birth among her Sande sisters in her father's village. She will return if she has a dispute with her husband, and it is her Sande society that will bury her when she dies. The head of Sande, or let's say the figurehead, is the masker who initiates young girls initially into the Sande society. Now, the Mende are matrilineal and matrilocal, meaning that when a woman marries, she moves to her husband's village, and it's through her husband's line that descent and inheritance are claimed. Here we see a Sande masker performing, and we see here a different kind of image. We'll look at the text in a second, but we see a performer wearing a raffia, black dyed raffia costume with leggings and black shoes and sleeves that extend beyond the arms, and then the head completely covered in this helmet mask. And somewhere in that mask are small slits through which the dancer can see. But the idea here is that this is the masquerade. It's not what I just showed you. Let me go back. It's not this structure, which is in a museum, well lit. This is the kind of thing that Westerners tend to think of as a mask, and this is what tends to be collected. But for the Mende, this is merely a piece of wood. It's when the mask is activated, when it has the costume and the music and the accompaniment and the audience, that it becomes alive. And it's activated through a spirit. In this case, masquerade, masking, is to make visible powerful medicine and powerful spirit. So the African saying is that masquerade is there to make the invisible visible. It's at times like this when the other realm, the supernatural realm, the invisible realm, suddenly become a part of everyday life, of this material world. And so what we see is a manifestation of medicine. And I know that that term is a bit confusing. This comes from the Ruth Phillips article that you're reading, and so I want to just clarify a bit what she means by that when she says masquerades make visible powerful medicine. Medicine is referred to hale or halisa, that's the plural, And medicine here is really supernatural substances. So it's not an aspirin, it's not something you take to relieve pain. Rather, it's herbs that are gathered by specialists who understand the properties, the supernatural or the spiritual properties of those herbs. And we see then the embodiment of that dancing before us. Now, the role of the masker in the Sande society is to initiate young girls. So girls are taken from their families, they leave their families, and they go and spend an extended period, this could last up to a year traditionally, but certainly several months, away from the village in what we call the realm of the bush. That is the area that is not cultivated and domesticated. It's not the village, it's the space of dangerous animals, of wild animals, and of spirits. And she goes there, and in seclusion, she's initiated by members of Sande, of the society she's going to become a part of, and by the mask. Now, the mask doesn't speak, but the mask dances, and the mask teaches her morals and virtues through these dances. If you look at the second part here, it says medicine is controlled by the Sowei or the Sowisa, the custodian of the medicine. So this masquerade is owned by or controlled by a head woman, and that woman is an herbal specialist. She understands medicinal plants. She knows what plants are important for what sorts of things, both on a spiritual level and a physical level, but I should also mention intellectual and so on. So she controls the medicine. These again are just the structures that fit over the head, and they do so, I mean, there's different styles of Mende mask, but generally there are certain characteristics that are the same. And as I mentioned already, when these girls are in seclusion and they're away from their everyday lives and their chores and their families, it's this mask that gives them instruction. Well, what do the girls learn? Well, during this time in seclusion, girls are taught to basically become women. So the roles that women play as mothers, as household heads, as wives, they're given secret knowledge, and that again is knowledge that I don't have and other researchers don't either, but information about who they are and their spiritual beliefs, cosmology, mythology, history, and they're also taught how to be beautiful. And when I use that term beauty, I don't mean what's on the surface, but rather what's inside. So what is on the outside is reflective of what is on the inside, and they emulate specifically the properties of the mask. So what is the mask? First of all, it's black. Black is considered beautiful, the most beautiful color. What else? It's shiny. It's not dull. It has this beautiful hairstyle, and we'll see an image later where the girls are emulating that hairstyle. It has very small slit eyes, a small mouth, a ringed neck. I know you don't see that so much on the right, and tiny little ear holes. And these characteristics are all considered beautiful and ones that girls want to emulate. So let's explore these for a minute. Small eyes. They're not really supposed to be tiny, but more downcast. In other words, not looking directly at someone. And here's this idea of being modest, of concealing your inner thoughts and desires and not making them available for everyone to see, so keeping your eyes downcast. You also have a high, broad forehead, and this is the idea that you are not concealing or hiding anything. In other words, you come into the world open with an open mind. You don't have your hair all hanging in front of your face and people are not sure what's going on, but you approach the world directly with that opened mind. You have a tiny mouth, and tiny mouth has to do with tiny speech, or specifically gossip. Small mouths do not gossip, and gossip in a small-scale society is one of the most dangerous things you can engage in. So the idea is that you keep your mouth closed, you don't talk about others, and they don't talk about you. Small ears are also related to this in that you don't hear gossip, you don't listen for gossip, you don't eavesdrop, you keep to yourself and you don't worry about others. Now the ringed neck is a little bit more complicated, and different scholars have written about different interpretations. Well, we might question who's right and who's wrong, but really I want to suggest that all of these readings, all of these understandings of that ringed neck are legitimate, are relevant, because there are different levels of meaning. And again, the most secret we don't even know. So the ringed neck, first and foremost, is connected to our Aquaba figure that we saw among the Ashanti, and that is the notion of girth or fecundity or fat, that these young women have gone through initiation and are ready to marry and are full-figured, full-bodied, ready to take husbands and have children. So they have enough body fat to be able to reproduce. During seclusion, this is a time in a young Mende woman's life where she is given rich foods and she's allowed to eat the best foods and the richest foods, and she's expected to put on weight during that time. Another level for this ringed neck is the shape itself, and the shape is that of a chrysalis or a butterfly in the cocoon. So this chrysalis shape, and that's suggestive of her place, right? She's not a girl anymore. She's going through initiation, but she's not yet done, so she's not become a full-fledged female or butterfly. So it suggests something about her liminal state. She's transforming. She's in the process of becoming. And the last reading is probably the most esoteric, the most complex, and that is the shape of concentric circles specifically in water. Water is really important in Mende land. There are a lot of lakes and rivers. It's on the ocean. Mende girls, by and large, have the responsibility of gathering water for their families. And so they are often going to water sources. And it's said that young girls have water spirit lovers, that as they come to the water spirits gaze longingly at them. So as the girls look into the water, they sing to the water spirits, and the water spirits are there with them as these sort of fantasy boyfriends. And they even make up songs about these water spirits, about how much they love them and adore them and how wonderful it is to have these water spirits. Remember that after initiation, the young girls are then married. You know, by and large, they leave the encampment and they go back into the village, and there's a lot of celebration and ceremony, and they're beautified, and then they take husbands and they leave their village. They go to their husband's village and they don't come back unless they're returning to have their babies, or there's some dispute, or they're dying, and then they come back to Sande, to their Sande sisters. But for the most part, they then have to take earthly husbands. So the idea of concentric circles, bear with me here, but if you think about the mask being at the bottom of the river and emerging up through it, breaking the surface, creating concentric circles, and breaking that bond with the water spirits. So the idea is that the girls who've had this kind of fantasy life, fantasy love, someone that adores them, they have to break it and take earthly husbands who may or may not be and love them in the way the water spirits did. They may not treat them as well, but the idea is that they have to now face reality and come to the surface. The black color is related to the silt and the dark, deep, rich earth at the bottom of riverbeds. And so again, this mask is connected to water and connected to the spirits of the water and the medicines that one finds around water. One of the scholars on the Mende has written eloquently about beauty and Mende beauty and how they really try to be beautiful like the mask. And here you can see that similarity. Even her hairstyle is the same as the mask itself. Here are Mende women at the end of the 19th century, this is Ruth Phillips, another scholar of the Mende, an image from her text, you can see the similarities. So they actually were wearing these hairstyles back then.